Hello, testing. Oh hi, this is my friend Pazuzu from the horror movie The Exorcist, one of my favorite movies ever. He's a good friend of mine. I don't know why he's there. I think it just goes along with like all the lighting. Hi, my name is Rian. I am a Rotten Tomatoes approved film critic, and I would like to review stuff. And I want to start off with Wake Up Dead Man, the new Knives Out movie by Rian Johnson, famous Star Wars director, famous director of, what was that film with Joseph Gordon-Levitt? Looper? Yeah. And Brick. Everyone loves Brick. Who doesn't love to get bricked up? Anyways, Wake Up Dead Man is a murder mystery, a whodunit, an Agatha Christie, a Hercule Poirot, if you will, that stars Josh O'Connor as a priest. And he has this great arc about being a violent yet troubled boxing priest who actually really just wants to take care of people and save. Wait, I'm talking about the priest from The Exorcist. Wait, no, yeah, actually, I think Josh O'Connor is perhaps one of the best priests we've had since the priest from Exorcist, and this is coming in a movie that also has the priest from Fleabag. So this film stars Glenn Close, Kerry Washington, Kaylee Spaney, Daniel Craig, obviously. I'm forgetting someone. I'm forgetting people. Anyways, I think that this film is a banger, but also this film is a banger as a drama, not as a murder mystery. I think this film really relies on Josh O'Connor's brilliance, and he is goddamn amazing in this film. He does like that thing that he does in The Crown, where he does like his face is like, or like he looks down. It's like, you know those like Claro like memes where like she's looking down and like curling her hair and like looking cute and everything. Josh O'Connor does this so many times in the movie, and he's so endearing. Like, I bet in the first 10 seconds that you see him, you will like him. He just has that charisma. It's such a unique talent to have in Hollywood, and he should be in every goddamn blockbuster. Another fun fact is that, sorry, I'm gonna go on a tangent that's not related to Knives Out, but I've met a lot of women in my life who tell me that they watched the movie La Chimera, which is an insanely indie art house film, came from the Cannes Film Festival, and I don't expect like regular people in my life that I interact with to go up and say, hey, I've seen La Chimera. And I'm like, how the hell did you see that film? And then they're like, oh, because Josh O'Connor's in it. And then I was like, whoa, he has a superpower. He can make women watch art house films. I can name like 2 other people who can do that, like Robert Pattinson and Timothée Chalamet. Josh O'Connor is part of this group that can basically get people to watch his films, whether or not it's like a 3-hour, I haven't seen La Chimera, so I don't even know what I'm talking about. If you put Josh O'Connor in a male-oriented remake of John Dielman, I think anyone would watch that, even if it's like 6 or 7 hours long. Wake Up Dead Man is about Josh Brolin, and he's the priest, and he kind of is sort of this very aggressive and very temperamental, and he is there to screw with you, and he knows it. He knows that he's there to screw with Josh O'Connor. He's there to get a reaction out of his flock. He's there to basically give the most asinine-filled homily that you've ever, like the type of homilies you would see your uncle share from Facebook and then say, see, this is why the liberal hive mind is taking over this country and we need to revolt against them. You know, that type of stuff. So that's Josh, I was gonna say Josh O'Brolin, like Josh Brolin. That's Josh Brolin's character. And Josh O'Connor is basically this priest who is brought to this parish and is like, hey, I kind of have this violent past, but I want to make sure that this parish gets more followers and more people are gonna come, and I'm gonna prove that I'm a good priest, and I'm gonna prove that I can let people in the church instead of fighting them, you know? And why do I keep saying Josh O'Brolin? Josh Brolin is the antithesis to Josh O'Connor's character. And the way I'm setting it up right now, I think if this was a straight up indie drama and it was just between the conflict and the clash of these 2 priests and there was no murder mystery at all, I would have watched and I would have ate the crap out of that film. But then I think like 30 minutes into the movie, we're then reminded that this is a murder mystery. And I sort of got taken aback because I love the Knives Out films. I love the first one. I know a lot of people who truly, truly love and adore that film, has made that entire film their personality, and I don't blame them. It's a fantastic film, well cast, perfectly paced, and then Glass Onion comes, and it's starring Edward Norton, Dave Bautista, Madeline Klein. Like all these like big names come in because they're like Knives Out was such an amazing like come out of nowhere film, and then now everyone's flocking into it. And then Netflix also bought it, so now it's exclusively Netflix, which is a shame. Wake Up Dead Man comes at a time when there is this built up reputation for the franchise to be a modern murder mystery, Agatha Christie, and it's cool. That's like the important thing about the movies, is that it has this aura where it's cool, it's chill, it's cozy, like a shit ton of sweaters were being worn by these really attractive characters. As a whole, Knives Out has basically built a reputation of trust, that Rian Johnson's whole subverting expectations game is actually much more suited for this whodunit mystery genre. And the thing with Wake Up Dead Man, and I think this might be controversial, I think it would have been better if it wasn't a whodunit, if it was just truly a film about faith, and the way that there are conflicting ideologies about how Christianity should move forward amidst growing socio-political concerns and technology warping people's minds, and the idea of radicalization being a connective tissue between how religion is able to gain its followers. And those types of things are potentially able to integrate into a murder mystery. But there's just something about the Josh O'Connor and Josh Brolin conflict that I wanted to see more of. I wanted to see more about how they argued the strategy that the Catholic Church should take in order to get more people. I wanted to see more arguments for why Josh Brolin thinks that he's in the right. And I wanted to see more arguments as to why Josh O'Connor seems to be contradicting a lot of the things that he probably says he believes in, especially when you compare it to his past. I think what's beautiful about the film is that it is a film about faith, and there's one scene that really crystallizes this, and it's a scene that really takes a breath. It pauses the entire movie, and then you suddenly forget that you're in a murder mystery movie. And then I think that's part of why the movie is great, but also it really hits a ceiling, because at the end of the day, the reputation that the Knives Out film has created has to be met, and Rian Johnson has to constantly go back to the fundamentals of the genre when he was actually doing something really, really special and unique, and yet he doesn't fully tap into that potential because he has to go back and solve the mystery and show us the flourish of Benoit Blanc solving the crime and giving us the answers. Josh O'Connor is giving the performance of a lifetime, and the script is giving him an arc that would work in an A24 or Neon film. And the fact that it's in the Knives Out film is fantastic, it's great, but I just wish that it had its own thing or it was separate. Don't quote me, but I think if all the chips fall in the right places and he does a great campaign, I think he should be in consideration at least for like an outside top 8, top 7 best actor prediction. Because I think he acted his ass out in this movie. I know people are predicting Glenn Close to be like supporting actress. I honestly don't see it. Because I don't think Glenn Close gave the best performance in this film, not even close. Josh O'Connor is so great in this role, he overshadows everyone. That's a good thing for Josh O'Connor fans. That's a good thing for people who just love good acting. That's a good thing for people who love a good nail-biting dialogue delivery from one of the best dialogue delivery men of Hollywood. But it also magnifies the fact that all the other cast members who were great actors in their own right had barely anything to do in the movie, because it was Josh O'Connor's film. It's an acting vehicle for Josh O'Connor, and there's not much time for Moriarty from Sherlock to shine. There's not much time for Hawkeye to shine. Benoit Blanc like barely comes into the movie. I had like a friend who watched it with her friend, and then her friend who was a huge Knives Out fan was like, damn, that took so long for Benoit Blanc to show up. And in my opinion, I think the movie is made better because Benoit Blanc doesn't show up until like maybe 30, 40 minutes into the movie. Because the character that I truly identified with was Josh O'Connor's character, and I wanted to stick with him. I wanted to root for him all the way until the end. And then when Benoit Blanc comes in, it's just more of like, oh, he has an ally. You know? And I do love that about Benoit Blanc because he's the type of detective who isn't like always following the rules, always going by the book and by the numbers. He tries his best to actually find a middle ground between solving the case and actually recognizing that there is a human behind the murder or behind this whole PR nightmare. In the first film, Daniel Craig knew from the beginning that, oh sorry, spoilers for Knives Out, a 6-year-old film. Daniel Craig knew that Ana de Armas was the culprit, but also he knew that there was something else. You know, there's like the donut inside the donut thing. So he was basically still on Ana de Armas' side, even if he knows that Ana de Armas was not saying more than she knew. And then on the second film, he was in on it. There was like the twin situation. He wanted to solve the murder and like he was willing to put himself and other people into harm's way. And then here in the third film, he kind of does the same thing where he's allowing the people to solve the case and to let their human reactions and their human fallibility to take center stage, because he's not there to be like this all-perfect God and come in and immediately know the answer. He's there to figure out who these people are, get to know them, and then find out about their follies, find out about their flaws, find out all the things that make up a human. And then after that, he just realizes, yeah, the reason why a murder happens is because of this tragedy or because of this misunderstanding or because of the selfishness of this tech billionaire. And so when Benoit Blanc comes in, we're third-party observers and he's a third-party observer, and Josh O'Connor, we're just orbiting around him. He truly takes over this film. Josh O'Connor really has a wonderful career ahead of him. Another thing I need to say is that in terms of the cast, I think the cast might be the weakest out of all the Knives Out films because all of them kind of get homogenized because they are the flock, they're the followers of the Josh Brolin character. So all of them are defined by their allegiance to Josh Brolin, and sure, they have like their own backstories, but they pretty much are very one note in terms of their relationship with Josh Brolin. It's like you can tell. At the same time, it also doesn't make sense that they're all like friends or they're all like a community or a group. The only thing that honestly is connecting them is the fact that they follow Josh Brolin for some reason, but why are you guys friends? You know, like I get that you all follow Josh Brolin, but what does Kaylee Spaney have in common with Hawkeye? I'm sorry, I'm talking about the character. I'm bad at character names, so that's something you guys need to know. I just feel like there's so much wasted opportunity between these characters because all of them really act like a group and none of them are individualized, like how Chris Evans stood out or how Michael Shannon stood out or how Kate Hudson stood out, right? A lot of them really have very shallow characterizations, which I think is a trade-off that Rian Johnson made to really make Josh O'Connor's character really deep. Another thing that you can notice in this film is that it seems that Rian Johnson has finally constructed his main structure, like the backbone of a Knives Out film. So this is how it starts. You introduce all the characters, you give all the motivations, and you're basically showing out all the cards. And the thing with Knives Out especially, what's brilliant about it is that they already show you who the killer is and what actually happened, and then it ends up being a cat and mouse game. So it is less a murder mystery and more of like, this is a cat and mouse game where Ana de Armas is trying to fight against time, and then it ends up being a twist that it's ransom. And then in the second film, it's more of a interesting analysis on perspective. And I think for a lot of people, it was controversial because there is this flashback portion in the film that kind of grinds it to a halt, at least in my opinion. But the twin reveal aspect was very welcome in my mind, and I think it's something we've barely seen done in a manner that feels grounded, and Rian Johnson is still able to actually pull it off. But it's the same structure. You find out the characters, you get their motivations, and then there's even more deeper layers that you probably will figure out, and then later on, all of those will coalesce together, and then you'll get the answer. And I know there's like a lot of Agatha Christie novels that basically have done this structure. The way that Rian Johnson modernizes it is that he knows that you know that all the evidence is going to be laid out, and you will basically be looking for motivations. You're basically going to be timing everything. You're going to be questioning everything. And so he gives that to you, essentially. Everything is laid out very neatly. And it's just a matter of what are the little bit of details that he chooses to tell you. And it's like very small because everything, you pretty much get everything. But then with this film, I think this might be the easiest mystery to solve out of all the Knives Out films. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's a competition between like if it's a hard mystery to solve or versus if it's an easy one. Again, I think everyone knew that it was going to be ransom in the end, right? But the beauty of it was the chase. The beauty of it was how thrilling it was to find out that, yes, it's ransom, and he might still win in the end, but then more and more twists happen, and you figure out that some characters are actually smarter than they let on. And then we get the finale where Ana de Armas comes up atop. It's a victory lap, essentially. The same thing with Glass Onion. It's like, it doesn't matter if people die, someone has to win in the end, right? And then here, in this third film, it's like, it's pretty clear who is the killer, because in the first 30 minutes of the film, where they lay all the evidence out, there is this one story that feels so out of place. It feels like putting a circle in a square peg, basically, this whole plot line. You'll know it when you see it. And it's such an obvious trick that as an audience member, you're gonna be like, they're gonna bring this back, you know? And even when the movie progresses past this reveal from the first 30 minutes, it's like, so what's the relation with that? What's the relation with that plot line? When is that gonna come back? And then when it does come back, it's like, oh yeah, there was a reason why that was brought up, because it felt like the most fish out of water plot line, you know? So I guess like a couple of questions. One, why was that flashback added? I think it was mainly just to provide an answer to the mystery and to solve who murdered Josh Brolin. But then two, why do it in such a way that it feels like all the other suspects cannot compete with this motivation? Like the motivation that this plotline provides is so crystal clear that if you put it on a weighing scale with all the other motivations of all the other side characters, you're like, there's no way those other characters are the murderers. This is the murderer. Like, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't feel satisfying to have it be done in such a way that it's so obvious, and it seems uncharacteristic for a Knives Out film to be this obvious. But again, I'm telling you right now, I still like this film because what I got out of it is that Josh O'Connor had a great arc from beginning to end, and I enjoyed rooting for Josh O'Connor, and I enjoyed him eventually leading up to the end. And I enjoyed all those little moments between Benoit Blanc and Josh O'Connor. And I enjoyed all the Josh O'Connor interactions with the murderer and the flock who go to church, you know? I enjoyed all those things. But I have to remind myself, this is a Knives Out film. For a lot of people, that's gonna be the source of disappointment for this one. And I just think like Rian Johnson, as much as like he is a great writer, as much as he loves making Knives Out films, I genuinely believe this shouldn't have been a Knives Out film. This should have been a film about religion that he turned into a Knives Out film. Because I think Oscars, the awards bodies, have considered the Knives Out film as like this popcorn, comfort food type of film, and they already gave an original screenplay nomination in the first Knives Out, so they're like, oh, that's it, yeah, you can go earn your money now, we've given you the attention, now use that prestige and get box office success, right? So I don't think the Academy is really gonna notice like the Knives Out films anymore unless like something really, really breathtaking happens. I don't think it's this film, but I think the Academy, because they don't treat Knives Out film as prestige filmmaking anymore, if Rian Johnson had made this into a quote-unquote prestige film and not a Knives Out film, this would have got a lot of Oscar nominations. Maybe not Oscar wins, but this would have been in contention for Best Picture. I wholeheartedly believe that. And like the thing is, like, this film is like funny, it's appealing, it has a lot of great acting moments, it has a lot of performances that are like wonderful performances, and yet all of them are probably gonna be washed away because people just think of this as another murder mystery, you know? And honestly, I think that's a shame, because the history of the murder mystery movies has actually been steeped in prestige. Murder on the Orient Express by Sidney Lumet in 1974. Ingrid Bergman won Best Supporting Actress in the Oscars. And then that movie also had Lauren Bacall, goddamn Sean Connery. Like, that movie was stacked. And then we also got like Best Costume Design as an Oscar win for Death on the Nile in 1978. And these films do lend itself to a lot of character acting because everyone is basically playing a game of wolf, and people are able to be more exaggerated because they're trying to feign innocence, or they're trying to hide like a mistake, or they're trying to prove that one person is guilty and they're not guilty. It's like great drama, you know? Like, that's why we love reality TV shows. And I think like murder mystery elevates it to a point that it raises the stake, because it isn't like Love Island and it's just like who is gonna win and who's gonna partner up at the end of the season. It's more of like who is gonna be the murderer, and murder is like one of the most tantalizing and taboo, sinful things that anyone can do in the entire history of the world. So this definitely raises the stakes. So we truly do adore murder mysteries as a community of film lovers, but we love it because we know what we're getting. It can, you know, lead us astray. It can give us like a flip of the structure like the first Knives Out did. But at the end of the day, all the core elements are there. We have the suspects, we have the Hercule Poirot character, we have the investigation, we have the secrets being revealed, right? And all those things are great and dandy, and they make great cinema. But when it comes to this film in particular, those were detriments to it. And that's really shocking to me, because I love murder mysteries and I love films that are like philosophical battles between how fate should be, you know? And Rian Johnson, you know, also is trying to make Knives Out films a commentary on what's going on in the world, right? I think like it's a pretty clear analog to say that from 2019 on to like 2025, that they share, I guess, the same political environment as the real world, and Rian Johnson tries to poke fun at it. I think it was very explicit in Glass Onion, and then here it's a lot more subdued, but it's clearly still there, especially with one character who I thought was really great. Let me look up his name actually. His name is Daryl McCormack. He actually was in Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. He was great. I think Mila Kunis was like, you know, she did her role well. I think Thomas Hayden Church is underrated too. I think he was great. And then Andrew Scott, Jeremy Renner, Glenn Close, Kerry Washington. Class acts, great. Kaylee Spaney though, Kaylee Spaney has an interesting career arc, because I think she won Best Actress in the Venice Film Festival for Priscilla, and then went on to Civil War, and then went on to Alien Romulus. And then now she's like in this role in Knives Out that I think like she booked while she was like in the middle of shooting those films that I just said and was like in the upward trajectory of her career. And then here she is in this role, and like obviously you would love to be in a Rian Johnson film. I would love to be in a Rian Johnson film. But her role felt really small here. And she could have been replaced with any other actress, and I don't know, it's just such a shame. I think like the cast in this one, again, like I think this is like the weakest cast, but not because they're bad actors, but because they didn't have material to go with these actors and their capabilities. So I don't know, like it's just, I'm in a weird sort of middle ground with this film where I do like the main core aspect of it, but I don't like the main core aspect of the Knives Out film inside of it. So I guess you can say that I don't like the donut hole inside the donut hole, and then the smaller donut with its own hole actually feels like the better film, and it should be the center of the donut, but the donut is not whole at all because it's a Knives Out donut. But I liked the smaller donut inside of it that was about faith and religion and fighting against radicalism and fighting against the idea that religion is violent. So that's Wake Up Dead Man.